Hi, today we're taking 3 different cover plates and we're turning them into 3 different cards using 3 separate techniques. So I'm going to help you stretch your supplies by teaching you some new ways to use these dies. We'll start off simple and then we will progress to more advanced, even using our cover plate in a way that you probably haven't ever tried before. So we're gonna get through this card. If you're ready to level up and use your supplies in your stash for more things, then let's dive in. So we are going to be using the Paper Tray Ink new release, and I'm going to use 3 of the cover plates, and I'm going to take you from beginner level cover plate dies all the way to advanced, a technique that you probably have not seen before. And so make sure that you stick it out to the end. If you want to skip the simple, I will put chapters in this video so that you can skip around and get what you need from it, because we've got 3 amazing cards that I'm going to show you, and we're going to have lots of fun. Our simple card starts with this set. It's called Elegant Ornaments. And what's nice about cover plate sets, especially these from Paper Tray, is they come with everything you need. So one little thing to remember when you are making the background is this first cut can be just the color of the outline. You can cover everything up with this die, or it could also be the color of one of your ornaments. Just remember that this color does matter. It can be a frame, it can be part of the card. So just make sure it's something you want to use. This one is kind of a matte gold, and I'm going to use this for both the chains that hold my ornaments, the frame, and then I may use some more gold accents as well. This die set has a circle for the large middle die, but it doesn't have anything for these 2 small ones. You could just use a different circle that you have in your dies. But what I'm going to do is cut with the plate again. So just remember, you can use this plate for all kinds of things. So what I'm going to do is just cut. I want my 2 small ornaments to be green. So I'm going to cut the top of the plate, and it may require just a smidge of fussy cutting, but otherwise that's going to work great. And if you're going to make multiple cards, you could always cut a full plate of this and have another one that has lots of green ornaments on it. But I knew that I was making this one card right now, and I wanted these 2 to be green. I was going to go real classic on my colors here. So I'm going to go ahead and use scissors to trim this, and then I'm going to line it up on my card and make sure that I have trimmed appropriately so that you can't see the gold behind it. So you'll see me trim parts of it and then set it aside and grab that gold piece to make sure that I've cut everything like I want. And you could decide to leave the hanging piece right here if you wanted to, but I know I just want the ornament. And where these green ones have the border, it's pretty easy just to kind of chop that off in a straight line, because there's not much of the actual ornament left. You see how I can just follow that line and it lines this up perfectly. So I'm just cutting off the border part, just following as straight as I can, make sure I get all of it, and then I can glue these down. So for the back of these glitter paper, you can definitely use glue. I use Barely Arts glue, and I just glue these to fit in their place. It's nice to put the red one down first because this other green one butts up right against that. So then add that with glue, and really this could be your whole card. So nice, but I'm going to put a background on it so that we've got something behind it. I'm going to use a beautiful navy, and I'm also going to decorate each of the ornaments. I decided to go with a very bright sparkly gold to decorate the ornaments, and I'll show you that briefly so that you can see how it looks in the end, and I'll also tell you a few steps on the background. So I picked a sparkly diamond glitter paper, and I'm using that for all of the little elements that are on top of the ornaments, just because it's so over the top sparkly, and I thought that would look really cool. So this is how the panel looks. Now all we need is a background, and I'll briefly show you what I did for that. I used Enchanted Evening, which is a paper from Paper Tray Ink, and I put it behind this, and when I was looking at it, I realized that I wanted some snow there, but I went on and glued it down before I realized that was the case. And so I ended up creating some mask and doing a little splatter, even though the card was already put together. So just remember, you can always work around. And if you're feeling like the card needs something else, you can always do that. Now for card number 2, we're using the snowman, and this one is so cute. This snowman turns out adorable, but I'm gonna do lots of extra little things to this piece. We're gonna create a shaker card today. These nice outlines make it very easy to make shaker cards. And right now I'm trying to go through my stash of sparkly things and really use up what I have because I don't want them to just sit there and collect dust. So I grabbed a couple shaker mixes, and if you watched the live stream on Friday with paper tray ink, when I did my project, I did this same card and I did it in blue, but I'm going to take you through the pink version because this one is the original that I did, and it is so popular, and it's got some really fun reels that are happening right now. So I want to make sure that you get to see the full scope of this project. This card, I started with some pink cardstock. This is from Paper Tray and it's called Sweet Blush. And then I'm going to use Pale Peony, and this is really pale. It's always hard for you to see pinks on camera, I believe, but I'm going to go around with some Pale Peony, and then I'm going to come in with just a little bit darker of the Hibiscus Burst, and that's just going to give it kind of that spotlight effect in the background, which is going to make a big difference when we put our wonderful shaker pieces and everything over that. The other thing I wanted to do that I think really highlights the background in these cases is to add some white splatter, because this is a snowman and we're kind of, with our shaker pieces, we're kind of imitating snow. It's always nice to have a little bit of white splatter on the background to make that even more realistic. Whenever I am doing splatter, I usually add a little bit of the ink color that I was using as well, and I just splattered that over this, but I know that light pink is difficult to see, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the white and how I splattered this acrylic paint. I use the end of my paintbrush, and then I'm going to mix it. I already have a wet brush, and I'm mixing it up with a little bit of water. This gives you a really true white. I'm using the Dr. P.H. Martin's white, and it just really lights up this background. I know with camera details, sometimes that is hard to tell, but it looks beautiful. And then we're going to add all of this sparkly stuff all over it with our shaker pieces, and it's going to be magical. So while our background is drying, I'm going to go ahead and cut the exact same color cardstock with the cover plate. And this is going to create our outline frame. Remember, most of the things in this will get covered up, but the outline needs to match the background. And so it's going to need just a little bit of blending, sorry, not blinking, a little bit of blending on that outside edge, just so that it looks correct with the background that we've already added some ink to. So I'm just going to go around with a small brush, adding to the very outline of this edge, because we'll have snow, we'll have the little snowman, we'll have everything else that's going to be already covered up. So I'm just adding some depth to the outside image, which will help kind of blend it with our background that has that spotlight type image. And that's one of the things that makes this card so breathtaking, is the spotlight part of it with all this glitter and glitz that we're going to put on it. Let's go ahead and build our shaker window. So I'm going to be adding double-sided adhesive to the back of this frame. I am also going to put it a little bit right in the middle here, and that's just to make sure that my pieces stick down to the piece of acetate that will be the window. I highly recommend doing this with double-sided adhesive, because if you use glue, it's possible that you can squish that glue out onto your beautiful acetate window and make it blurry. So it's really nice that these frames are, the actual edge part, I believe, is exactly 1/4 of an inch, which is the exact size of this tape that I have, which makes it real easy just to go around the edges, tearing little parts off. Now, normally I'd go ahead and add my acetate window, but we've got this really fancy believe up at the top, and I know I'm going to glue something to it. So I'm going to try to glue on my pieces that are going there before I start adding the acetate window, so that if I have any little blobs of glue, they're dry before I put that window on, and that just keeps your window nice and clear. Now, people often ask me how I get the colors on my cards to be cohesive and look good together. And basically, what you'll see with this Believe, it's a pink glitter cardstock, but I look through multiple different areas in my craft room. I keep cardstock, I keep even little small pieces that I get, and I start with my general color scheme, and then I start pulling out everything, including the little shaker bits, everything, and I start matching it to the cardstock, and this pink glitter cardstock just fit perfectly with the colors that I was gonna use. So it becomes the believe it becomes part of the hat, part of the scarf, and part of the mittens, and it just really adds and really sparkles. Now, once I've got that on, I'm not worried about the glue anymore, so I can go ahead and remove the adhesive backing, and we can add a piece of acetate here as our window. With acetate, if you don't have specifically acetate, you could use like a piece of extra plastic that you find in packaging. You want it to be a pretty stiff piece of plastic and you want it to be see-through, of course. So if you've got something like that, I know people have used lots of recycled materials to do this. I particularly have acetate and have already cut it to fit this window size. So I've got the adhesive backing off. I'm putting a little bit of adhesive behind the believe, and then I'm going to add this piece of clear acetate carefully to the back. Inevitably, you're always just slightly off, so always trim off any extra acetate that's sticking out from the edge. I just had a little piece right through here that's sticking out, so I'm going to trim that off. And then we will look at how we build up this window so that we can fit our beautiful shaker pieces inside. Shall we do a build montage? I love it. I love calling it a build montage. So we're going to take strips of 1/8 inch foam adhesive. This is double-sided adhesive that is a foam. And I'm going to build a box around this following so that you can't see it through the window. So I'm following the edges, and you see that I added just a little piece kind of below the snowman. That's so that I don't have to put as many shaker pieces. You could just put a total of 4 strips on here and that would be perfectly fine. But I'm creating an area so that all of my little pieces are contained and that I get the most use out of them by putting that little area down there and scooting it up from the bottom, because part of that's going to be covered up. So you really want your window and your pieces of double-sided adhesive to go all the way around the outside and maximize your beautiful sparkly pieces. So now we're going to add sparkly pink and clear jewels or sequins to the middle. It's important to add them to the middle so that you don't accidentally stick your window down over the sequins and then have a big problem. This is a brush that's an anti-static powder brush, but it's one that has a little smaller end to it. It's made by EK Success. I will put it in the links for this video, but it makes doing these shaker cards very easy. I always run my finger along the edge after I've placed the powder to make sure that nothing is sticky. And I do this because otherwise parts of these sequins will just stick to the edge of your card and it doesn't look as fun and it doesn't shake as much as it would normally. So I'm checking all of that, making sure there's no sticky left. And then I will use a microfiber towel and wipe my window off of any extra powder that could be there, because the powder that you're using, you want that to stick to the adhesive so that there's no sticky areas. So wiping the middle doesn't cause any problems. Just keeps your clear window as clear as possible. So now I'm going to remove the adhesive backing and we're going to complete this shaker card. I will take you a little through the dies and show you the end product, but next we're going to move on to using a cover plate in a way that you may not have ever tried before. And I'm going to show you some specific ways to do it. We're going to make some mistakes on it, show you how to cover up those mistakes. And I actually spilled on the next one, I spilled a bottle of something on this card and still recovered it because it looks amazing. It actually added to the card. So we'll talk about covering up our mistakes and keeping cards going even if you think that they are a lost cause, and you'll see how beautiful the next one turns out. Plus we'll use that new technique of using a cover plate in a way that you may not have tried before. So once I place this on top, we've got this beautiful window. I went on and added the pieces, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the build montage here, but I want to show you specifically a couple of extra details that I did so that you can try these out. I grabbed a really fine line pen, and all I'm doing is placing the pen in the little divots that the dye made. So the dye makes a little smile and it makes a little shadow just pressed into whatever you're using. But since this is glitter, you can't see that great. So I just took the pen and went along and placed those dots there, and it really made a difference in this card. Look at how gorgeous this turned out. I think this is one of my favorite cards of the season. I just love all the pink and the glittery sparkliness of it. So let's go right into the last card where we are going to use a cover plate to emboss a piece of paper. So I'm going to show you the sandwich that I used. I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum 6. And here's the order: plate A, plate B, the die, a piece of paper, the flexible piece, which I think they call E, and then this cover, which is D. So I know that's a lot. I'll put it in the description for you, and then I'm going to run it through the Spellbinders die cutting machine, and you're going to see how beautiful this turns out. It looks so pretty. I did spray the back of the white piece of paper with just a little bit of water to give it some flexibility. Okay, check this out. It's just a white piece of paper, but we're going to transform that. Look at the impression that it makes. Is that beautiful or what? It's pressing it like a letterpress into the paper, and we're going to create some really fun techniques with this. So one of the easiest techniques with an embossed image is to do an ink swiping. And this ink swiping works really nicely when the image is pressed into the paper, so that you've got some white areas, and then where you swipe with the ink, it picks up and it looks beautiful. I'm using blue raspberry from Catherine Pooler Inks. The key to this is keeping your ink pad very flat so that you don't fill in all of the white areas, and just swiping lightly across. Okay, this next part, I'm going to make several mistakes, and I'm going to show you how it does not matter, just to be a little easy on yourself crafting. We're going to come in with a darker blue called Something Borrowed. Now, I had tested something on this panel, since this was my test panel, and I had added a little glue to the edge of a snowflake down there in the bottom center. And I forgot that I had done that, and that glue was still a little bit wet. So I thought about adding some glitter, and then I decided, no, that's way too messy. Let's try something else. So I forgot about the glue, which means it picks up the ink and makes that area a little bit darker. I'm only coming in about a third of the way with this darker color to create that spotlight effect. And it really worried me at the bottom at first. And I was like, I know we can fix this. This is a very, very fun panel. It's very busy. Nobody's going to notice. So here is what we did. I thought, when all else fails, add more layers. So I grabbed the silver Foundry Wax. And if you haven't seen this, I'm going to be shaking it up right now. And then I'm going to put some on here. And it has a little clog in it. And look what happens. I thought, there's no way that's enough. That's not enough to cover all these little snowflakes, but I love how it's looking. So I decided to add a little bit more. And let me just show you the disaster that turned out to be the best thing this card has seen. So I tried to squeeze more out, and it just splattered across my page. And I realized, oh no, we've got lots of silver here. But the silver, I'm rubbing it on with my finger, and it's still picking up to the areas that are raised. So it's leaving nice definition, and it actually makes the panel look even better. You can still see the blue through it. And the way that Foundry Wax works, it's not a paste, it's actually a liquid. And you do need to heat this liquid like you would heat embossing to create a very shiny result. So the shininess is after heating. So I used my heat tool and I heated it up, and it creates a shiny silver versus a dull silver. You can leave it dull if you want, perfectly fine. But now we're going to go in with the extra dyes in this set, and we're really going to add details that make this look amazing. And part of that process is going with what we've already done on the card and bringing it through to these pieces to make them extra special. So I'm going to use two colors of ink on the Let It Snow. I'm going to use the Foundry Wax, and we're going to create some extra snowflakes with some unique textures as well, so that we can just highlight what we did on this. And nobody knows, except for you watching this video, that this was actually a card that I made a mistake on. And most cards have some mistake. This one was caught on camera pretty big, and it ended up being the best thing that could have happened to this card. So one of my favorite things to do on a monochromatic card is to create a sentiment that's ombre. So I'm starting with the darker blue, something borrowed, and I'm starting at the bottom of the letters and I'm adding a lot of ink and pulling it up to the top so that it creates the darkness at the bottom of each letter. So I'm just going to just play with this. You could use a smaller brush to get even more of this effect. And if you get too much dark ink, you can always go back to your lighter ink and use it. I wanted to look at what this looks like and I want to make sure that this sentiment shows up. So I go in pretty heavy handed with this to make sure that it will show up against our blue background. I added a layer of that same a little bit darker blue to all of the snowflakes because I want them to show up on the silvery background as well. And since the background does have a lot of silver, since I spilled the silver on it, then we want to make sure that our snowflakes are visible. I still want to bring them in with the silver though, so I am going to use Foundry Wax again. And I'm going to put it on some of the snowflakes. You see how that blue stands out just a little bit better? And I will make sure to cover up my big inky mess down at the bottom with one of these blue snowflakes. So I'm just kind of checking how this looks, and I'm going to add some extra details. So let me show you how I did the Foundry Wax on the letters. Here's a quick glimpse of the Foundry Wax if you haven't seen it before. It does require a lot of shaking, and this time the little stopped up thing that made it explode is gone because I've spilt it all over my other card. So I'm just going to add, and I do this with my finger. You could do it with a glove. It does leave a little stain on your finger, and I usually wash my hands right after. But I'm going to touch the edges of these snowflakes with this silver, and then we will heat them up, and they will be beautiful, shiny snowflakes that have that base blue but have a lot of silver around them. And then I'm going to use the same silver and I'm going to take it on the tops of the letters like it's snow that has landed there. So I just did the tops of the letter like snow is falling, like a beautiful silver snow falling, and just did the top of the letters. And that also helps kind of the ombre effect of these letters really sink in. All right, so this does require a little bit of heat, and I'm going to use my Wow embossing tool. It's just a heat, basically like a hair dryer, and I'm going to hit these pretty quickly. I'm going to try to be able to, I'm going to try to get them where you can see that the silver becomes shiny. So I'm going to hold it up in front of something white and see if you can see that just a little bit better. It does not take long. As soon as it becomes shiny, that's all that you have to do. And so I'll do this for the letters and for the rest of the snowflakes, and it'll give them this beautiful texture. So keep an eye out and I'll show you a little bit more. I will add a couple of gems to this. I'll put these in the description, but they're basically some kind of clear gems, and it just makes a snowflake card look amazing to have even more sparkle. So I had to add a few of these. Let me bring it up close so that you can see this. I just love all the sparkle, the shine. It just looks like the perfect Let It Snow card, and we really did stretch our plates by using a impression of the plates instead of actually cutting, and it really looks cool. I wish that you could see it in person because I think you'd be so amazed. Let's get a look at these final cards. Really nice and sparkly. I'll get you a good, nice look at each one. Make sure you tell me in the comments, have you tried a cover plate? If so, I would love to hear what you've been using them for. And I also would love to know which of these cards was your favorite. So make sure you let me know. Is it the Let It Snow, the cute pink snowman, or this bonus card, which actually I made in a live stream? If you want to see more, I will pop that up at the end. But I hope that you enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe on my channel, and I hope to see you out there on social media. Make sure to tell me which one was your favorite and find all of the supplies in the pinned comment. Have a great day. Bye.